What works for horror is triggering those primitive feelings that we all have that we generally don't experience. You know, when you're small, everything is scary. Dark rooms, strange people, weird noises. So you can bring those things in, but you also have to be aware of transgressing the adult boundary of realizing, of rationale and seeing that, okay, I know that it's just a dark room. Likely there's not a hideous beast in a closet waiting to devour me. But if you can sort of tap into those childhood primitive fears, then you can have success. So I think if you can create a strong story for the monster, then that really gives it a lot of power. The reason why something like Frankenstein is so enduring and so powerful for us is because he is monstrous. However, he struggles with this very compassionate, thoughtful human side. And I think that that's what people relate to, is that balance of what's monstrous and what's human, because to some extent we all feel those things within ourselves. And so if you have a monster that I think people can sort of sympathize with or understand their motivation, then it makes a monster that is a much stronger character than just some like rampaging Godzilla thing that, it's animal nature. But to understand from a human perspective, well, this is what happened, this was why it's doing this, it has the same feelings and urges that we do, then it makes it scarier, I think, because you have to look for a way to reason with the monster, but also understanding that they're beyond reason. You can either align yourself with the main character so that you're experiencing everything that they're experiencing, but you don't know what's coming. So you're kind of going through this journey and it's new to both of you. So there's a lot of expectation, anticipation, anxiety, because, we know because of the genre that something bad is going to happen, but we don't know where or when. So we're going along with the character on this journey. You can also be the sort of outside observer, where you're watching the person, which is, the feeling that we get when we go to horror movies when people are screaming at the screen, like, don't go in there, because we know it's coming, but the character doesn't. And so we're powerless to warn them. We are sort of a powerless observer. And so that creates its own tension, because you know that something bad is going to happen, but, you're sort of just being steamrolled toward this inevitable, terrible conclusion. And then the third is you can actually create empathy with the monster. And you can take pleasure in, the horror of being the bad guy and gnashing on bones and tearing things up and being destructive and evil.
To me, there has to be the suspense. There has to be the feeling of the unknown. To me, those two go hand in hand, okay? It's a matter of what you can sense and what you can't sense. There's something's out there, but you're not sure what it is. That, to me, is suspense horror, and that's generally the kind of horror I write, Occasionally I'll go off on a tangent and do blood and gore and zombies and stuff like that, but to me, it's in the mind. It's not knowing what's just ahead. The protagonist, whether he's in the dark or going down a corridor, he doesn't know what's around the corner, something like that. And things that they notice when their senses get heightened, the narrowed vision, the heart beating really fast, feeling flush or getting lightheaded. These are all things that I throw in there because to me, and this is a trend that we're talking about, I find a lot of horror is visual only, okay? And that sells your story short, okay? Because if you're in the head of the protagonist, okay, or whatever character, you have to feel what they feel, and they're not just going to see. It could be something you hear. It could be a vibration you feel. It could be a smell. Horror is really good for smells. I use the nose all the time in horror because it's a dead giveaway there's something wrong. If somebody's going down the corridor and they take this sulfur smell, well, what does that think? You think, oh, God, it might be a demon or something, if it smells like sulfur. So that's what I do, and I think I've been been published on several goth websites. Apparently the goth kids like what I do. And I think, that's the feedback that I've gotten on that is that it takes into account everything, every feeling, every sense.
To me, horror is when a story imparts a sense of dread. It doesn't necessarily have to be splattery. In fact, sometimes that's the gratuitous splatter and blood offsets the scariness of a story. I think when writers write what's close to them or write what scares them, I think they could be more effective, but also a subtlety in what you're trying to do. Atmosphere, voice. In any short story, in any literature, to me, the voice is almost the most important thing. You create your own voice as a writer, which means, and also you create your own characters that are memorable, because as it's been said, there are no new ideas in anything, in literature. You use the idea and it's what you do with it that makes the great story. The fantastic character that people can't forget. The tone of the story, Edgar Allan Poe's creepiness, there are certain things that he does that no one else did. So it's all in the writing, a lot of it. It's not just saying, oh, I've got a brilliant new idea, because it's probably not new. That's not what you do with it. You can write zombie stories up to kazoo, you can write vampire stories up to kazoo, and even though a lot of them that I read are the same and really boring, if you bring a new telling of the story, an interesting character, a voice that's unique, I think you'll get the attention of the audience.
I always say, don't you think that book is too scary? They always say, not scary enough, not scary enough. Kids are very smart, and if something is too scary for them, they know it, and they won't touch it. I have so many kids say to me, I don't like scary books, I don't read your books. They know what's appropriate for them. I have one rule, and that is, the kids have to know the books are fantasy, that they're not real, that it couldn't happen. I keep reality out of it. So that makes it less scary for kids. They can have these creepy adventures, they know they're safe in their own room reading these adventures, and no real world issues that could be upsetting to them ever gets into the story. They're all fantasies, and the kids know it.